What if I told you that a single overlooked parameter in Roundcube Webmail could let attackers run code on your server? Well, that is exactly what happened thanks to insecure deserialization. In this video, we're going to look at a real-world example of how something as simple as insecure deserialization can turn into a serious vulnerability. Serialization is a process of turning an object into a format that can be stored or transmitted, and deserialization is the reverse, which means turning that data back into an object. But when applications deserialize untrusted input, attackers can manipulate it to execute code or gain access they shouldn't have. A perfect example of this happened in Roundcube Webmail, where researcher Kirill Fiersov discovered that the from parameter in the upload.php wasn't properly validated before being deserialized. This oversight created a deserialization vulnerability which has since been patched in recent version. In this video, we'll walk through what deserialization vulnerabilities are, how they work in Roundcube, and what the developer did to fix it. So without further ado, let's get started. Right now, we are on the login page of the Roundcube Webmail. So what we're going to do is grab our default credential, which is elliptic, and I'm going to take this into the username field, as well as grab the password and paste into the password field, and then we log in. And you can see that we are presented with our dashboard here, where we can compose messages, check our mails, contacts, and settings. We can also switch to light mode or dark mode. You can check about, information about the webmail. And you can see what we have here is webmail 1.6.10, and this is copyright within 2005 to 2025. So what we're going to do is quickly search for exploits. Let's say Roundcube exploits 1.6.10. I think that is what we saw on the about page. And you can see there's a lot of options. We also have exploit from exploit.db, as well as from other GitHub repositories. So we're going to be using exploit from Fiersov. So what I could do is Roundcube exploit Fiersov. I think I got that correctly. Let's go for the one on GitHub. I think we should just be able to clone the repository from there. Okay, great. So we have our installation script for the Roundcube. We also have our readme and our exploit code, which is written in PHP. So you can follow this instruction if you want to install the Roundcube into your Docker container, as a Docker container rather. And what we're going to do right now is just copy so that we can clone this. So we're going to go to document, and we're going to make a directory called, just call it Roundcube. And we're going to do git clone and paste our exploit in there. And this should have been downloaded. So we're going to change directory to the CVE-2025-49113. And let's see what we have in there. So we have our installation script, we have the README, and as well as the PHP script. So what I'm going to do is just use change mod to add executable permission to the script. And you can as well read the README file and see how we're going to use this exploit. So this is how to run it. We have the PHP, the CVE script. We also have the page, which is going to be our IP address / Roundcube. Then we need to supply our username and password, then the payload which we want to execute on the server. In this case, what they're just viewing or what they're just reading is the st/password file, which is going to be redirected into the temp/pon file. So what we're going to do before we move any further is try to see the exploit script. So I can as well go here and use Sublime Text to view the CVE exploits code. And you can see it. We have about, if I'm not mistaken, about 300 lines of code, 383, and we can start going into every line of this code. We're just going to take a look at some of the functions which we have here. So this is the main function, which is just printing some information on the screen, showing you how to actually pass your commands into the applications. And you can see the different variables that are being passed as your argument variables. You can also see that we're trying to validate the URL here and fetching of tokens and cookies. And we also have other function here. So this was the validate URL function that it was calling here. And we as well have authenticate functions which pass some variable as strings like the target URL, users, password, tokens, and others. And if we scroll any further, we have the parts that inject our payload, and you can see it's a message saying that the exploit is actually injecting our payload. We have setting of boundaries and our multi-part. We have some encoding and decoding being done right there. Then we have crafting of our URL from the exploit. We also have another function which executes our payload, and we have, I think we have one more function. We have the calc payload, which is actually passing our command as an argument into these calc payload functions. And you can see that this is actually initializing a class with a property of gpg-conf, and which is actually saving the command we are passing into the application. And we have our serialization taking place here, which is actually initializing the serialization object and passing our command into that, so that when this gets deserialized, whatever command we pass through this argument here gets executed. We also have the process serialized, and as well as the message functions. So in order not to waste much of our time, what we're going to do is go back to our terminal here, grab our command in here, and we might decide to launch a new terminal for that. And we can do, let's just paste it in here. So we need to make some modification to this. For example, we need to specify the IP, and I'm going to grab this from the UI here. So we're going to remove the local IP address, and I'm also going to remove the HTTP because we have double in here. We're going to also remove the port because I think it should be definitely running on port 80. So we do not need any special port. And we also need to remove this fearsoft.org, then supply our credential in there. Great. So we also need to modify this into a bind shell, and we're going to be using NCAT for that. We need to specify the listening port, to be port 444. We can as well add n to the list of the tags, and we're going to use it to execute bin/bash. Make sure the quotation is closed. Then we can split the screen. Let's make this bigger again. And for this part, we're just going to connect to that IP, which is 10.10.149. I think I pasted it here. Good. So let's just grab it again. Copy selection. We're going to paste it in here and connect to port 444. So I believe we're good. We're going to execute this. So it says it cannot open this particular file because we are not in the directory. So what we're going to do is maybe change directory to downloads, where we have the script, not download, document rather. Then we change directory to YouTube/Roundcube/CVE. If I'm correct. Okay, great. So now we can run the command again. So it's retrieving CSRF token, authenticating with the user we supplied. The authentication was successful. Then this is the command being executed and the payload injected successfully. So the next thing we need to do is execute the connections. And if all work as expected, we should be able to gain a shell in less than a minute or two. Okay, so I think we gained a shell already. And when we run the pwd, you can see that we are running this in the var/www/html/roundcube. And when we check what we have in this directory, you can see the list of files in this directory here. We have the vendor, we have the temp, we have the program. If we go into the program and we do ls, so we have, where is it? So we have actions, we have include, we have JS, we have resources as well. So what I'm going to do is access the actions. See what we have in the actions. So we have settings, we have utils, mail, login, and contact. See these settings. So we have the upload.php here, which has the vulnerability in question. And when we try to access upload.php, you can see the entire script for the upload.php here. So we can as well go into get our flag. So cd/etc, and we can do cat flag.txt. So this is the flag for this particular lab. And when you go into Google here, you can as well try to search for Roundcube GitHub, which is the official GitHub repository of the Roundcube applications. And we can try to see how this vulnerability was patched. So what we're going to do is look for the program. We're going to go to the action, and inside the action we need to open the settings and access the upload.php script, which is the vulnerable script. So you can see that this is what we have. So when you go to the history to try to see the number of commits that was done here, and you scroll, you can see a patch that was done here by June 1st, 2025. And what it does is it validates URL parameter in the upload codes. So let's try to see what was done to that script there. So you can see an addition that was made to validate. How do I have that? Let's dismiss this. Still loading. Can I just open this on a new tab here? All right, great. Okay, so you can see an adjustment that was made to the program here, which is actually meant to sanitize the URL input. And when you scroll down here, you can also see a regular expression which was meant to filter out special character, which can aid in the deserialization vulnerability exploit. So guys, that'll be all in this video. If you've learned one or two things from this video, kindly like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you in the next video.